time A to time B.
Right. So after that, I have a question with Xavier. Xavier is asking if a company is already certified for SOC 2 Type 2, do they still require SOC 1?
If the there if the client so it's not about do they require or not, it's about whether your the client is requesting for it, or there is an ask from the user entity for it to be done or not. If you are dealing with financial data, then you need to do SOC 1. If you're dealing with financial reporting, if your controls or your service is could affect the financial reporting of your user entity, in that case always go for a SOC 1. If not, then you don't really need a SOC 1.
Right, very well said that, Akshay. So just to add one line there, Xavier, if you have an investment bank firm, if you have a financial firm which is actually transacting a lot of data, you need SOC 1 at any point of time. Okay, just make sure you do that. Otherwise, if you are a simple cloud service provider, you are not handling any client specific data, then you can not related to finance. Okay, then you can maybe skip SOC 1 and go for SOC 2 directly. Okay.
So
And
one thing I
yeah,
would like to specify, I don't know, for people out there, people confuse. So people take this more from an audit sense, that there is a non-compliance involved over here. It's not that. The SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3 audits do not talk about compliance or non-compliance. They will just the report. It's just a SOC report.
yes.
So it's not to say that I have passed the test or I have failed the test. It's to say that I got a SOC audit done and this is the report. And the report is the deliverable. So, and like a typical audit wherein you either have a compliance or a non-compliance or a partial compliance, for that matter, if you may consider that. Here, what you are just saying is, this is my control, this is what was tested, and was there any exception that was noted or not? That will be published in the report, and then the client can have a look at the report and they may question you, and then you may have a couple of exceptions, and you may be able to then justify to the client that either this is not relevant to you, or this is why this was done, or I am implementing I'm improving my controls, I'm implementing sub controls, and in the next audit this will be done. So it's like that. It's a report that will showcase everything. It's not a compliance or non-compliance where you are achieving for a pass or fail. Obviously, ultimately, you're achieving for no exceptions.
It's basically an assessment. It's an assessment that you are doing.
Yes,
exactly. Absolutely. So Xavier is saying thanks, Akshay. So he's thanking you for the explanation. Nicely done. So I think Balakrishna is also saying thanks. So people are really happy, Akshay. Thank you. I think we are actually providing value here. For all the people who have actually joined the session right now, I can see a lot of people, 10 people are here on the call. Any questions related to SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, go ahead and shoot. And any questions apart from SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 in terms of GDPR, PCI DSS, HIPAA, each and everything, any compliance standard, go for it. Okay, we are here for you so that you can get the most out of these sessions. So Akshay,
go ahead. No, please ask. I have a couple of tidbits here and there. I'll just say that just as a filler.
Shivkant has come back. Shivkant is asking, thanks. Is there any specific standard to follow for SOC 2? For principles like privacy, security, availability, integrity, confidentiality. So now
okay, he's asking a lot of things. Shivkant, good question. So basically, SOC 2, if you talk about SOC 2 basically underlines 5 principles. So it talks about common criteria security, which is basically physical and logical security is covered. It talks about confidentiality, wherein you are ensuring that the information which is required for you to provide the services or the information that you are processing of the user entity is protected. You talk about processing integrity, wherein you are saying the system. So it's basically the system that is providing a service or whatever the scope or the processes are have that integrities in place. The process in itself are accurate, they are timely, they are monitored, they are authorized. And from a privacy perspective, what you are saying is that the personal information, whatever you are collecting from the user entity, is basically collected, retained, processed, transferred in a secure manner, considering all the privacy principles. So this is the basic guiding framework for a SOC 2 audit. A SOC 2 compliance.
Right. And another question from Sachin Vetal now. Sachin is asking, as type 1 audit is specific for financial domain, since you mentioned that, does it overlaps with the PCI DSS standard as well?
No, it does not, because PCI specifically talks about an entity which is processing payment card information. Like a consumer, any consumer information, payment card information, if I am processing, that may be specific to a business, that may be specific to an end user, I fall under PCI DSS, all the systems that are processing that data. But SOC 1 report is specifically saying if I have a service that could impact a specific organization's financial statements, then that comes under SOC 1 compliance.
Yeah, I think the objective is absolutely different, as you rightly mentioned, Akshay.
So I may not be storing any payment card information, but still my services may impact some. If I like I mentioned that, if you're a financial like service provider and you are a data processing company and you're not storing, you're just processing the financials of a bank or a company, then that in itself makes you fall under a SOC 1 report, but may not necessarily get you under PCI.
Yeah, so compliance is different for PCI DSS standard, and Akshay rightly mentioned it's for the payment card industry, and the SOC 1 is different. SOC 1 is basically from a service organization point of view, how you are catering to your financial controls.
Right.
Okay, so Shivkant has come up again. He's asking any documents or guide how to implement the 5 principles of confidentiality, integrity, that he mentioned before, as per the SOC 2 compliance after the session. So he wants that. Okay.
Yes, definitely, Shivkant. In fact, NIST is a good framework of reference, which was a tidbit which I was going to give. The risk assessment, Shivkant, which we do, the risk assessment and risk management and all the controls regarding the CIA that we put, as outlined in the major security standards, is a good way to go. Obviously, this becomes more control specific and focuses on the systems and services which are relevant to the organization, so the user entity. But there are good frameworks. We can go ahead and give the exact guidelines as well. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Sachin Vetal is saying thank you so much, Sachin, for confirming that your question got answered. Thank you for that. So Xavier has another question. He's asking how do we resolve exception in a SOC 2 report of the same audit year? Do we need a second attestation again, or do they have any specific template to handle exception like in case of ISO 27001?
So yes, you do have compensatory controls. You could go ahead and say that. So you have to be, the point over here, Xavier, is that you have to be very specific of what control is under your supervision, and then what is a control which is up to the user entity to ensure. So there are controls which will be specific for your control to work effectively. There will be a couple of controls that you would desire for your user entity to follow as well. So you have to be very specific in the limitations of what your controls are. You have to be very specific in the exceptions that you have. You may very well have them, you may very well put them in place, but you have to declare them in the report itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see new people joining. Any questions, please feel free to enter in the comment section. It may not be related with the SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 as well. Okay, so speaking about that, Mahe Mahinder is asking another question. He's asking, hang on there. Okay. For any organization holding European citizens' data along with financial services, then will there be 2 types of audits performed like GDPR and SOC? Will both of them come into play?
Yes, obviously. I mean, and these are not related. I mean, this is if you are providing service to, just kind of depends on what kind of service you're providing. If you can give some example, I mean, is this thought behind some specific company. I mean, if there is a company who's actually providing services to European citizens as well and to an organization as well, yes, obviously they have to be GDPR compliant as well as. So SOC compliance, let's not say that you have to be SOC compliant. Let's say you just need to have a SOC report so that your client can demand. So the idea behind a SOC report is not to say that I'm SOC compliant. Let's not say we are SOC compliant. Let's just say that any point of time, your customer can ask you for a SOC report just to see whether everything is going fine or not. It's like when we take service, like when organizations take service from a service provider, sometimes the relevant stakeholders go and do an inspection of the facility, right? So it's like the same thing. You going ahead and checking each and everything. Other than that, there is a framework, there is an auditor who has done something, and then you can just go ahead and look at it, and you can see whether everything is in place or not.
Absolutely. So just to add here one more thing, the goals are different. For GDPR, you focus on PII, which is personally, personal information of any individual. The goal is different there. In SOC, the goal is entirely different. Okay. So you have to understand what is the objective, as Akshay rightly mentioned. What is the type of service that you are offering? What type of data are you holding? Are you holding PII data or are you holding a financial data? These are the things that will help you understand whether you should go for GDPR and SOC or only one of them. I think he'll get it. Anything to add, Akshay? I don't see any more questions.
Yes. I think we can wrap this up for today. As it is, it must be really late for people. They must be.
Yeah. Any final questions before we summarize the entire session? I think it was really helpful and a lot of questions people have asked. So I think we have clarified a lot of doubts. Just to summarize again, quickly, SOC 1, Type 1, point. Akshay, what was it? Sorry, I forgot. Point in time financial audit. Point in time financial audit. SOC 1, Type 1, and SOC 1 Type 2 is over a period of time financial audit. That is the difference between both of them. And SOC 2 Type 1 is point in time security audit, availability audit, integrity audit, all the things combined for the entire, information processing inside your organization. And SOC 2 Type 2 is over a period of time of the entire security, availability, integrity, each and everything, right? And yes. SOC 3 is basically for making sure that, all the information that you have gathered in SOC 2, you can publicly make it available, and you can actually make it in a readable format so that people can understand it and make sure that your service organization is actually compliant with the SOC standards.
Yeah, but one just a little bit of thing here. Instead of saying that it's a financial audit, let's just say it's an audit of the controls which are relevant, which are impacting the financial statement of a user entity. Because people might confuse, people just tuning in might confuse this from an actual financial audit of the company itself, which is altogether a different scene. But yes, you were right in saying that.
And just to add one more point of differentiation, SOC 1 is basically for all the investment banks, any financial firm which is dealing with the financial data. SOC 1 is for them. SOC 2 is for a cloud provider who is actually processing the entire data, information processing, information storage. SOC 2 is for them. Cloud.
Yeah, any managed service provider, basically any provider who's providing services. But yes, clouds are kind of major consumers of it.
Yeah, Akshay has a lot of cloud clients, don't ask me. Okay. So a lot of thanks are coming up. Mahi is thanking, Shivkant is thanking. They're saying very nicely explained. I think the session was really valuable. Before we conclude, just to make sure that all the people know who are going to watch this session, as well as all the freshers who are on the call, Anzen has launched recently a course called CIRP. The description is there in the description box of this video. It's an absolute course that anybody or everybody who is interested in cybersecurity should go for. Okay. So even if you don't want to go for any course at this point of time, I would request you to at least inquire and know what this course is about, so that you get a career counseling, you get an understanding. Okay.
Yes, apart from that, Love, I would like to add, just so because we are talking about it, we have specific courses for having an in-depth understanding of risk management, audit, implementation, standards like ISO, PCI, even SOC 1, SOC 2, any kind of knowledge you have, we have tailor-made programs out there. Like I've said previously, you just need to just shoot an email or give a call, and if you have something specific, if you have a specific requirement, at least what we can do is we can guide you. Even if you choose not to go ahead with a training program, what we can do is at least guide you in a certain path, and that's why I'm here, that's why we have been doing these videos as well. So our doors are open even in that scenario, or for those things as well.
Yeah, even experienced people who are facing challenges in their jobs because of pandemic situation, any kind of issues, if you are in the information security, cyber security space, I would request you to go and at least get a career counseling from these guys. These guys will actually help you a lot.
And also keep posting this, try to find love's groups that he's running. There are a lot of people, there's a huge community.
Yeah, a huge audience. Yeah.
Shivkant is part of them. He's like one of the most active people out there, and we have a lot of domain experts over there discussing continuously, and a lot of energy going on.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning, everybody. It was a great session. Thank you, Akshay, for your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.